Good evening, everybody.
Thank God it's an evening event. What? Thank God it's an evening event.
Hello. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming out to the next in our Sustainability Innovation Lecture Series event for this year. This is the third year we've run this lecture series, and I think every year it gets better. We find new, amazing people in our region putting sustainability into practice in creative and innovative ways that really make an impact. So thank you for coming out to hear some stories about what's going on, and you can be part of the story. You'll get to ask questions later. My name's Krista Bailey. I'm the director of the Center for a Sustainable Future here at IU South Bend. And we have pulled this series together for you, so thanks for coming out and enjoying it with us. We are live streaming it, so there may be voices that come in with questions later, just to prepare you. They're real people, not some heavenly body speaking to us, so that may happen. So be aware of that. Or if you would rather watch these future ones from home, you could also do that. That's an option. So we have several more coming up in this series. We will not be holding this during our spring break. I see some students in the room, you know when that is. The rest of you, we have a talk next week, then we're going to take a week off. Then we'll be back. And we'll be pushing those messages out there. So if you'd like to find out more about those dates and topics that are coming up, these materials are out front on the table in the hallway. You can get the whole big fancy brochure or just a little pocket version right there. So one of the reasons that we do this lecture series on sustainability is because we actually offer a major and a minor in sustainability studies here at IU South Bend. We're the only school in the IU system that offers this degree, which is pretty great. Also the only school in the region that offers this. So we really have a corner on the market, as it were. And we're glad we do, because we have a lot of ways to see this happening in practice and a lot to still learn and offer. So you may have also seen out on the front table little pieces of paper that look like this with beautiful people on them. These are our graduates who got jobs with their degrees in sustainability. So if you're wondering, why would I study that? What could I do with that? Lots of things. And I'd be happy to talk with you about that. So pick up one of these, take a look if you're interested or know someone that is. We also have a graduate certificate in strategic sustainability leadership. So that is also available if you aren't ready for another undergraduate degree. So that said, I'm going to try and get out of the way as quick as possible because we have a wonderful conversation waiting to happen. But before we hear from folks that will be sitting up here eventually, we do like to make sure that we offer a chance for those of you that came out to hear something about sustainability to find out who else is here to find out something about sustainability. Plus, you're going to be in your seats for a little while. So now is your chance to stand up, and you all get to stand up. Go find someone you don't know, exchange names, tell them why are you here, what drew you here, and don't just say, I'm here for extra credit, if that's the case. What brought you here, what are you excited to hear about, learn about, find out about? So take a few minutes, stand up, mix and mingle, and we'll be right back. came for all kinds of different reasons. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot out of tonight's talk. So I have just a couple other introductory comments to make for you. Well, I should point out that we have this whole series of 10 talks. We actually started this series, in effect, last semester. I was working with Zach Schrank here in the front row. He's a sociology professor, and April Lidinsky with our Women and Gender Studies program. And together we worked on a grant to sponsor an ethics in the environment series of talks throughout the year. So this is one of those feature events in that series. We started out this semester bringing in international best-selling author James Rebanks to campus, who spoke about how he shepherds in Great Britain sustainably, and then how he tweets about his sheep. It was delightful. It was recorded. It's on our YouTube channel. You can still watch it. So it's out there. But so that was the start of this series, which has this ethics in the environment series embedded within it. So we're very excited about that. We have another one coming up later in the semester as well. We're bringing in Sam Centellas, who's the director of La Casa de Amistad, and Santi Garces, who's the Chief Innovation Officer with the City of South Bend. So that'll be the last in that series coming up a month from today. But one of our speakers last semester were from the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi. And as we were inviting them to campus, we got to talking about what it means to be here in this space and to be on land that is the land of the Potawatomi. And that we should probably be acknowledging that and recognizing where we are. Yes, we're at IU. Yes, we're in the South Bend, but we are on the land of the Potawatomi. So we offer this reminder that this is where we are. And they share their words, which I'm not going to try to speak Potawatomi, but it basically is a reminder that we are the Potawatomi. We've always lived here, and forever we will live here. And they do still live here in this area. So I wanted to acknowledge and recognize that as we move forward into this evening and connect with wonderful things happening here in our space as we know it today. That said, I'm done talking to you for a while. I'm going to introduce a fabulous group of folks to come up. One, this Ethics in the Environment series, we've asked in people to moderate the conversations. So our moderator is from our School of Business, Harry Vestlakis. So please come on down. Welcome, Harry. We also have two delightful business people that I'm very happy to know and grateful that they agreed to share their ideas and knowledge and experience with us. One is Becky Reimbold, the proprietor of Just Works, and Sean Lyons, the founder of Zen Cafe, made the highest coffee. So that said, enjoy the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. A couple of things. I never use a mic. I lecture a lot. In fact, I lecture a lot in this hall, and I have a loud enough mouth. I never need one of these. So the only time I use a mic is when I'm having karaoke night at home. So I will try to not get confused about where I am, because a cappella singing is not my thing. The other thing is I will periodically look at my phone. I'm not checking text messages or social media. I need to check time, make sure we're doing okay, so we don't get derailed, because we have so many wonderful things to talk about. We might get a little excited. Lose track of time. So, thank the two of you for coming, Becky and Sean. I want to start by talking a little bit about what it is that you do, and I guess more importantly, why you do what you do. You are doing some interesting things, and I think it's important to talk about what is the sort of the moral imperative of what has led you down the road that you're journeying on. So Sean, if you don't mind going first, as I've put pictures in order, so we'll try to stay on track.
Alright, I tend to mumble, so if I'm speaking too quiet, just holler out. So I'm the owner and proprietor of Zen Cafe Coffee Roasters LLC, also known as Zen Cafe. I started in May of 2010 as a roaster wholesaler. I primarily started with fair trade organic certified coffees with the intent to become more and more transparent. So I started importing coffee with another company that I created, Indigo Coffee Importers, and started going to Origin 4 years ago and creating real relationships and moving forward. That is our building. We call it the Annex at Lang Lab, where you can get full espresso drinks. So we have a full espresso bar, we have a bean and bar, chocolate maker on Violet Sky. Actually, that's the owner there. Yeah, that's what we do.
All right, thank you. Becky?
Okay, first I'm gonna put it back at Sean, just to say a little more about why you do it, and the moral imperative or the ethic behind it.
Sorry.
That's good.
I want to know.
Yeah.
For me, it's about building real relationships. I don't want to just serve someone a cup of coffee. I want to know where it came from, and I want to be proud about it. And I know all the work that goes into processing coffee and importing it or exporting on their end. And I think in our busy lives that we often just look at it as a product and forget where it came from. So it was a personal that.
Thanks, sorry, Mary. I know you're supposed to be asking me questions. But, you know, the funny thing, so I'm Becky Reimbold, my business is called Just Goods. Our tagline is Indiana's oldest sustainable living general store. And we're in a building built in 1874 in the East Bank Village in downtown South Bend. There's some of our crew. We have an audience member tonight wearing a blue dress in that photo. And she's often sporting clothing purchased at Just Good. So we have a lot of longtime supporters, started about 13, 14 years ago. And it's really good to be here tonight and to be put into a room with Sean. And I wanted to ask that question partly because that's part of why we're here, but also because I've known about Sean for a long time, and my customers go, "Oh, you guys, you know, have such similar things," and talking about busy lives, and you know, when you run a small business, and you're just kind of tied into that, and it can be hard. You know, you might meet your customers that come in, but you don't always have time to go out. So thanks for asking us here tonight and putting us in the room together, and it's nice to get to know another business story as well. When I think about the story behind Just Goods, I think a lot about children. So for me, as I've been asked to tell my story at different times, I think about my own past and my own childhood, and coming from a family where I feel like my parents were very ethics-minded, they were community-minded. We didn't have a lot, but what they did, they wanted to do conscientiously, you know, a lot of the choices that they made. And they're not exactly how I do things now. It was a different time, and they had a different background and different experiences. But I think that set me up to be thoughtful about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and my work and my personal life and just everyday living. So then later on, I think when I started being more aware of what's going on out in the world and learning that there's sometimes children that make our clothing, they're not going to school, their choices are very limited, and why should we have what we have on the backs of someone who's suffering? And so that really came kind of to a head, an experience I had in Ecuador. And it wasn't with making clothing, but it was farming and spending just a little time in a farm field where there were children harvesting vegetables. And it was a school day, but it didn't matter, right? And coffee, and so there's all kinds of work going on in the world, and people that are doing it might be children, or they might be terribly underpaid. They might be getting cancer at higher rates because they're exposed to chemicals in the farms. whether they be cotton farms or coffee or whatever. So really, I just want to be part of that, and I want there to be more resources in the world where we can get our everyday needs fulfilled in an ethical way. And so Just Goods kind of grew out of that. There was already a lot of movement around coffee and food, and for me as a young mother, realizing all the things we need to buy, kind of clothing and things like that, and so just looking into those other kind of products. And so at Just Goods, we do sell clothing, we sell some baby items and cleaning products, and as well as sort of gift items, but all our things, the idea is that they're sustainably made.
And you're doing something a little different this semester.
Right, so I'm on a sabbatical, so I decided, with the help of a friend, to help me kind of come up with that term, but I felt like I needed to take a step back again from that sort of day-to-day, and reevaluate. To be honest with you, I never thought I'd be in retail. I never thought I'd be trying to sell things. My background is more around education, social justice, working with nonprofits and things like that, and I kind of fell into this. And it's been a lot of fun, and I've met really wonderful people, and it's been a great challenge, but I'm not sure what the future holds for me personally and for Just Goods. So doing a little kind of reevaluating, and it also is helping me to sort of walk the talk, to slow down a little bit, to cook more of my own food at home, to study some things that I want to know how to do for myself and my family. So it's pretty fantastic, and I feel really fortunate to be able to do it.
If you ever want to explore any Greek recipes, let me know. I'm a great cook.
Okay, you're on.
So last week when we met to discuss a little bit about what we were going to talk about here, I asked both of you to talk a little bit about, how do you bring sustainable practices into your business? How do you integrate the idea of sustainability into the business? I know that one of the things that we talked about was where you are, your location. So why don't we start there and talk a little bit about that?
All right. I know I do have some of my regulars in the crowd. We are a very atypical business, especially a cafe in South Bend. We are in Lang Lab. It is a 33,000 square foot old furniture factory with a lot of boarded up windows in a neighborhood that you wouldn't think about going for a coffee drink. But our thing was that building existed. The rent was very cheap. We can put in sweat equity. So that's where we originally started. As far as what else would you like to know about building wise?
But I'm just curious, how many of you have not been at Lang Lang?
Not been.
So this ought to be a really good night for you.
Please come. It's a really, really cool building. It's actually a mixed-use building. You'll see on Google Maps that, so when you look it up and you're driving up the street, that is the place. You're not lost. Google did not take you to the wrong area. But yeah, so it's a mixed-use building. So we have resident artists. We have a paper maker there. We have a potter there. We have people all printing there. There's me. There's Violet Sky Chocolate. There's a venue that's all ages. They have shows quite a bit, so you can look up on their website. The mayor likes to hang out there. I think that's pretty hip. But yeah, that's kind of why we chose that spot. It's off the beaten path.
And I've been there several times myself. I've been there when there's DJs or live music playing and the bar's open and I'm there. And, it's an interesting, if you like that sort of raw, organic, sort of bohemian, kind of artsy, authentic, sort of, non-commercialized space, it's a really good space to be in.
It's great. You said Bohemian, the owner of Lang Lab, or one of the owners, always defines it as bohemian chic.
Yeah, they
I just enjoy that building. It's quiet. We also have an opera singer that teaches there once in a while. We have operas there.
I was playing a piano the other day, one of those baby
grants.
grants.
Yeah, so it's a really cool spot.
And Becky?
I think I'll just add that relating to sustainability, adopting old buildings is incredibly sustainable, right? There's all kinds of embodied energy in the wood and the brick and all the things that make up those buildings, and we tend to just tear them down and throw them away. So from a kind of an energy perspective and materials, and that's just like one piece of it, because it's also culture and it's also aesthetic that adds to our community when we retain these old buildings. And it's also, I think it can help revive neighborhoods. And we're talking about focusing back in on the center and the core of our city, instead of moving out to a patch of farmland and constructing something new that people have to drive to get to. So I don't know about Sean, but my hope, this is our second location for Just Goods, but they're within like almost a half a mile of each other. And my hope is always that I wanted people to be able to walk to our store. And I think, it's taking a little longer than I hoped, but it's always been true to a case. Not that most people walk, but we do get some, and we're a little more visible too. So this is really out of the way, but it's really awesome. My husband actually was in the first opera at Lang Lab, so that was really fun. And my son's got a little bit part too. So there's salsa dancing, there's art shows. Definitely put it on your list.
Hi man, how many of you been to Purple Porch? All right, that's actually where we're located, is the old Purple Porch shop. So it's definitely incubated several businesses, which is really cool.
Great. When we talk, I also talked a little bit about what does sustainability mean to you in terms of where you get your materials, in terms of sort of sourcing and harvesting. And you had interesting, wonderful things to talk about. And you talked about some of the crops and the things that you've done, and you talked about some other things like the Fair Trade Federation and whatnot. So, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and your travels and
Right. So actually, this is that's me. But this is a farmer I work with in La Union, Honduras. His name's Rudy Carcamo. I've been working with him directly for 5 years, and that's his original pulping station for coffee. As you see, or a coffee person would see this and say, this is coffee going to the market. There's a lot more defects in this lot. When I first met Rudy, he only had 6 bags. Each bag is 152 pounds, or 69 kilos, going for export for specialty. Now we've turned that. Last year he produced 63 bags that we imported. So now instead of going mostly to the market for pennies, he's getting specialty grade prices. So that's one thing. We deal with a localized product, so it's not grown in the U.S. except for Hawaii and Puerto Rico. So our mission is for what I want to do, which is creating relationships with everybody that I work with. A little bit more problematic at times or more tedious. I have to travel if I want to see how they grow, how they treat their pickers or whatnot, how their farm practicing is. So yeah, this is Rudy's. I don't know what other slides you have next. So on the right is a coffee nursery that we funded. So originally, Rudy's coffee nursery was behind his house, and he only could start so many trees for his barns. So that was a problem that he had addressed, that he needed to do. So we acquired this land, and now we have a full coffee nursery. To the left, that's Rudy checking bricks. So bricks is a way to track sugar in coffee harvesting or in wine or whatnot. It's also a way to see if you're at peak harvest for harvesting coffee or wine, like grapes. So now we're even increasing quality at the picking level. It's no longer hey, is this ripe enough to pick? Because a lot of pickers will just go, oh, we'll squeeze the berry, and if there's 2 drops of liquid that comes out, it's pretty much ready to pick. This is going to tell you, all right, if it's 18 bricks to 24, that is like perfect time for picking. So that's just one of the things that we've invested in.
Right.
Okay, so I started Just Goods after revisiting the cloud forest in Ecuador. I had been an exchange student there in '92, and then went back with my spouse and our 2 young, in diapers kids. I said, what do we do about the diapers? And Carlos said, we bury them. You know, so, because I knew we were gonna be like trekking in to this reserve, and I'm like, do I bring cloth diapers? Are we gonna be able to wash them once we get there? Anyway, little sidebar. It was a fun trip, and it allowed me to meet this women's cooperative, and they were looking for a market for their goods. So this was in spring of 2003, so yeah, 11 years after I had been there as a student, and had always wanted to go back and visit, and finally got there. And then I was staying home with the kids at the time, and then I said, well, I'll bring some of your products back, I'll see if I can help you find a market for them. And basically, I didn't have any luck, and I was like, well, I guess I have to open a store. So, it's kind of, again, not really a plan to go into retail, just like these women need some help, and there aren't enough stores that are selling fair trade goods, and so I guess we need a store, and so that's, yeah, not a very good business plan, but it's been, like I said, a lot of fun. And so that was like one direct connection, but what's interesting, I think, in like looking at our different businesses and sourcing, to have a retail, so people aren't gonna come buy a sisal bag every day. You're not gonna have customers that are gonna come even twice a week if all you sell are sisal bags. Like, they're gonna get one and it's gonna last them 5 or 10 years. And then, you know, they'll come back when it finally wears out. So I had to sell a lot of different things, at least that's what it feels like. And so I get a little further from the product and the producer, and I can't travel. You know, things are made, some of them internationally, some locally and throughout the US. But the relationship still is really important, and I try to get as close to it as I can, to knowing who's making it. And a lot of times it's people like Sean that are kind of my go-between. So it's like, oh, Sean goes regularly to that farm in Honduras, and he knows the people, and he knows how they're being treated, and they're helping make their own decisions. And so I rely on a lot of people like Sean that have started their own little companies, and then they sell to different retailers throughout the US.
What is this picture about?
So that's back to the children. So this is the town in Ecuador, a different place. That's in 1992. That's a daycare center in Columbe in the province of Chimborazo. And these are not the children that were working in the fields picking carrots, but I didn't have a camera with me that day, so I don't have that picture. But when I was going back through old photos, I found this, and just beautiful kids, and they're from that same community. So they just help me remember why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's awesome. And, you know, we also talked a little bit when we were chatting last week about things like packaging. We talked a little bit about using biocompostable materials and whatnot. We also talked a little bit about what the challenges are in terms of bags or plastic cups. And so, Rick, talk to us a little bit, because, you know, so we're talking and we're trying to watch time, and we're drifting to all kinds of interesting discussions, and we're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get this in 1 hour talk? Because we got to talking about consumer behavior and what we are or are not aware that we're doing when we're going to, like, Starbucks or some other place. So let's talk about sort of packaging and sustainability from that perspective.
right? So we try to encourage at our cafe to grab here cups if you are going to stay around and have your drink there on site. So that's one way of bypassing a lot of paper waste. Our cups that we use for carry out are completely biocompostable. Even the lids are, they're made from bamboo fiber, which is really cool. I know some people do oh, the texture is a little bit different. It's not like the plastic ones that most people get, but we do care about that. So we do offer that. The challenges we have in the coffee industry for packaging is actually the coffee bags themselves. A lot of vendors or people that I have to supply do require that they be heat sealed, and I have not found a biocompostable bag that's heat sealable. So yes, the paper outside, yes, that will break down, but there still is going to be aluminum or the foil and then a poly inline, like a polyline bag.
Yeah, I think it goes to the challenges of, you have a way you want to do your business, and then you have sourcing challenges. You have, will the customer pay the extra 10 cents for a cup of coffee because I'm paying, 10 cents more. I'm not even trying to make a lot of money off of doing the right thing, but I gotta cover my cost, and so what will the market bear? And I liked what you talked about in our earlier conversation about creating culture. And I think some of that is just about having those conversations and, meeting your suppliers where they are and meeting your customers where they are, and then just trying to bridge that. And as you go along, things do change. And I felt like, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I asked for it and I got it. I buy like $1,000 worth of product from this little US company a year, but I asked if they would make all of their t-shirts in organic cotton, and now they do this year. And I know it wasn't me, but it was me and it was 10 other people who said, why aren't all your t-shirts made out of organic cotton? And so then they started to see that there's a desire for it, and so bit by bit we try to do what we can.
She was just encouraging me to do that just minutes ago, actually. Like, just ask for them. But yeah, that's the biggest challenge would be the actual coffee bags themselves. For takeout cups, the industry's moved a lot towards biocompostable. They are quite a bit more costly right now, but me as a person, I can't go to bed at night knowing that my company is giving cups to customers and they're going into landfills or on the ground or everything like that. So that's,
as someone who teaches business and society all the time year round, I always tell my students, and some of them are in here, that a lot of times, for example, in the instance of coffee, right? We go to a coffee shop and we're thinking about, we're buying coffee. We're going to consume the coffee, but actually we're consuming the coffee. I mean, we are buying that coffee, we are consuming that coffee. By means that we are using it as a single-use plastic and then we're going to throw it away. Eventually we're going to throw away whatever we eat too. So in a way, it's when are you throwing this stuff away once you buy it, right? And so as consumers, we're not thinking about, what is this plastic cup? Where did it come from? How's it going to dispose of? What's that footprint on the environment? And I think it's just really cool. I mean, I just think the places like your guys' places are cool because they are just, I'm not a friend of the status quo, so I don't like a lot of that stuff anyway. So I think anything that's out of the ordinary appeals to me. But just the fact that you can go and buy a fantastic cup of coffee and buy it in a cup that you feel good about holding that coffee in is kind of a special thing. It's interesting. Okay, so we were talking about when we might want to take questions, and we thought that every so often we might just want to pause and give you the opportunity to jump in and ask questions about whatever it is that we've covered thus far. So, you got anything? Shoot up, yes.
Origin. Where did you two get this
kind of notion to live this way, to feel this way? Were your parents into, sustaining the environment, ahead of their time? Where did it come from?
Soul searching.
Origin as in our whole business model, or just the sustainable?
Well, just the sustainable piece.
Definitely I grew up with a family that was heavy into gardening. We grew up with a father that was always about fixing it rather than just throwing it away, so I think a lot of that has definitely impacted my life. Yeah, that would be a part of it, for sure.
So I did mention at the beginning, like my parents, I think, had a big effect on just me, the fact that you need to be conscientious, like when you walk through the world. And I often think of just like, first do no harm, and that's kind of what I just come back to. But I had so many guides along the way, just teachers in school and professors in college. I just told my son I might finally get to see my college roommate who grew up in Oakland, California. We went to school in Ohio, and I remember distinctly at the dorm bathroom brushing our teeth, and I got the tap turned on, and I'm just brushing away, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm brushing my teeth." "Turn the water off." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "We're in a drought." Like California was already in a drought, and they just had to. They had expensive water, and there were lots of restrictions on it, and she just couldn't even imagine. So there were just like little things along the way from people friends and teachers, and being like, we went camping on vacations as a kid. That was our vacation. So loving, I think, experiences like loving nature, picking carrots in a field with kids, those kind of things are what stick with you. And sometimes we don't remember what they are, but it's like muscle memory. And when you've had a deep impact, it's hard to go back. Not impossible though, and you can slip and slide. So thanks for asking.
I had a question about the biocompostable bags. Does that mean that you have to put them into a composter or a pile? Or do they degrade even if they do end up in a landfill? Or?
So my biocompostable cups, they will break down over time. But like the biocompostable bags that I used to carry, those needed to be actually put in a composter.
Okay.
Like a commercial grade composter. A lot of products that say biocompostable will need like a composter. And I don't know if South Bend even has a professional composter. Do you know anywhere that has? Bloomington does, I know they do.
I have a small composter in my house, but it's not it's not like an industrial.
Right,
spray
so
can.
some composting machines need a higher heat level to actually break down. So I don't know if that would work in a home-based one. It might over time.
Yeah, I think I've had luck with it, but again, over time.
Yes.
So you mentioned like the whole diaper thing. So what do you do in like your day-to-day lives to be more sustainable, not just business-wise, but personal-wise, if you don't mind sharing?
I'm kind of nutty about this stuff, so I'm not sure where to start, but I'm not perfect.
You got 5 minutes.
And it goes, I know, it's just like, you get a little obsessed and then you're like, wow, what do you do? But you do, you only have so much time in a day, but you're just always learning. I mean, our compost is throw it in a heap in the yard. Like we have, it's got a little like fence. But I don't harvest my compost, I don't garden, I've been part of CSAs, community agriculture, I'm, part of the Purple Porch Co-op. I kind of rely on other people to grow my food, so I don't really need my compost, but I don't want to add to the landfill. So just little things like that. I try to wear it out, use it up, wear it out, fix it. That's one of the great things I'm doing with my sabbatical is like tightening up doorknobs and doing my mending pile. I have a little sewing machine and You know, I can't throw stuff away, so I just have piles of stuff, and then, you know, I'll fix that someday. So taking the time to do that, to me, sometimes it's those little things that just, again, slowing down and not like, I started years ago, we could get the newspaper, and I realized how tempting the sale ads were to me. I don't know, that's a different thing now. It's probably some type of ads on your phone that are tempting you. But I just would get the Sunday paper full, and I would just, the first thing, dump the ads. I just don't even want to see them. I don't want to, because I thought, well, I should be responsible and click through and find what the best prices are in case I need something. But all it did was make me think I need more stuff. So, I don't know. Sorry,
So for me, my wife and I garden. We do have a compost pile. We have chickens. We get our eggs from our chickens, which is great. We have a smart house. I've been rewiring our house. It's a 1940 house. It was built in 1940, but we've been updating all the electronics. So obviously lights are not turned on all day long or whatnot, and it's been great.
I live in a 100-year-old house, and you know how you get that little report, that energy efficiency report from AEP? I'm consistently below the average house in my neighborhood. AEP, NIPSCO, they will send to you people free of charge, and they will come in and will walk through your house, and they will tell you what you can do to conserve energy, whether it's electricity or heat or whatever. And I've done that, and even though I'm in a 100-year-old house and I love it, and it's kind of a community space for a lot of people, I managed to somehow keep my energy consumption below average consistently. So there are ways to do these things for sure.
Okay, other questions? Yes.
I had a question. You mentioned that your growers used bricks as a means of assessing the sugar concentration, whether it's ready for harvest. I was wondering if you could just like briefly mention like how that method works.
So that method is commonly used with vintners in winemaking to make sure that the sugar account is going to ferment at a certain level. So they're going to get good fermentation, which means they're going to have a really good finished product. Coffee is about the same. So being able to track bricks means that there's going to be a high enough sugar content for the coffee to ferment. In this case, wine is used mostly by yeast. Coffee is more of a lactobacillus, so it's a bacteria that breaks down. And that's for enzymes in coffee. So it's going to help with the higher the sugar content, the better fermentation. It's going to be adding a lot more of that fruity character that everybody likes, brightness. That's it.
I guess like my question I was.
It's like the breaks like 18 to 24, like what does that mean?
No, I was asking how are you assessing that in the field, like making that measurement?
With a refractometer.
Yes?
Who would anybody in the area can partner with to kind of move the sustainability movement in our area to a higher level?
Well, the center here at IU, just in terms of keeping connected, trying to support what they're doing and being in the loop there. Little things like just being active in civic matters and going to some zoning meetings or city council meetings or things like that. And as an individual, but you also kind of meet up with different groups. There are a lot of nonprofits. Some have been around for many, many years, like Audubon and local chapter of the Sierra Club's not very active right now, but it still exists. And then more recently, there's an effort that was started a little over a year, maybe a year and a half ago now, the Environmental Network of Northern Indiana, or ENI. And, you know, you can look that up, there's a Facebook group for it. Not meeting super often, but having some really great, effective meetings and starting to look at some bigger efforts to make change. It kind of started out of a group of people. If you heard about the L Bell for Everyone campaign a couple of years ago when our largest city park was going to be sold to a private golf course, and it's got a lot of endangered or critical list species, wetlands and things like that. So anyway, there was a great public movement to save that as parkland and green space for our community. And then it was like, hey, let's keep this energy rolling. And so they've been identifying all kinds of businesses and groups and individuals who are interested. So that's a really exciting thing for our future.
For me, it's just teaming up with businesses that share your same value. So all my burlap sacks are donated to Unity Gardens. Those sacks are sold to help fund other projects that they're doing. I do a lot with Purple Porch. A lot of my grounds get donated, so those are going to, one of them is Unity. And then there's another permaculture guy. In fact, does he still sell compost at Purple Porch?
I think so.
Yeah, he was.
Crazy Bill.
Yeah, Crazy Bill. So yeah, I just gave him all my coffee grounds and my chaff, which is our byproduct from roasting, to use for that. So it's just about getting involved in your community and making sure that you're making your dollar go further. People that share your same core values.
Okay, so I hate to be a time dictator, but allow me to go on and just hold on to, there'll be spots here in a little bit you can ask questions. Just want to make sure that we don't leave any of this really cool, important meetings out. So when we were talking last week, we also talked a little bit about what transparency means to you. And it seemed like we focused a lot around the idea of labeling and letting the consumer know what they're purchasing. And also transparency sounded like was something that was innate in the relationships and the partnerships that you build. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Where are we on the, oh yeah, so talk a little bit about, all right, go ahead, Sean, if you don't mind, and then Becky, you follow.
So obviously, what I was talking about earlier with starting with Fair Trade Organic, a lot of that label was, for me, when I first started as a smaller roaster, I couldn't have access to going to Origin and creating relationships as a startup. So the first way to do that and make sure that I was getting coffee grown ethically and sourced sustainably was to go by labels. After that, I still, me as a person, desired to have more of a connection. So that's when I started going to Origin. I met Rudy actually. I just made a post. At this time he was selling through another importer-exporter, and made a post that I had Rudy Carcamo's coffee. And then Rudy Carcamo liked it. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And then we just started chatting, and he's like, hey, you should come down here. And that's how I did that. And then getting on the plane and going down and seeing how his coffee was produced solidified the fact that this is what I need to do. This is how I can validate what I do. So that's why you'll see on all my Origins, there's a name under there. That name is a person, and chances are I do know them. Or I do work with somebody that is really good friends with me, because a lot of importers will share. Obviously, I can't import everything from Colombia, so I have a friend that has the same values that I do. So that's what that is. Yeah, it's just about making relationships less serendipitous. We all stumble upon each other at one point or time. And for me, that's what the transparency is. I want to know that person. I don't want to just know, oh yeah, this person does coffee. I want to know their hobbies. I want to know their kids. I want to know their pickers. That to me is what's important.
Can you go to the next slide?
Yes.
So one of the things, we're talking a little bit about labels, and that's, there's different kinds of labels, and so what I'm talking about in my store is, you know, if there's a t-shirt or a candle, it has like the hang tag, or, you know, it has something about the, you know, where it comes from. So like sort of more like sourcing, and maybe a little bit of a story or a link to the producer's website so you can find out more about them. But you'll also, like on coffee and certain products, more typically commodity products, there'd be like a stamp of certification or membership. And that's where it can get really tricky, right? Like, what does that mean? And do we really know what it means? So that's maybe a whole other conversation, but maybe just something to think about and be aware of. And Harry mentioned the Fair Trade Federation is my group that I use, and they do have a logo and a label. It's not a third-party certification. They're a membership organization, so that groups like the Mujeres Medio Ambiente in Ecuador, if they wanted to, they could apply for membership. And usually they'd have somebody kind of helping them through the process, and then be transparent about their organization and how they work and who gets paid what and who makes the decisions. So the Fair Trade Federation it's big, but it's small. And there are conferences every year, and it brings people together, and I feel like I know what their principles mean, and I meet enough individuals at the conferences. I can't go to all their places, but I can also talk to them on the phone and whatnot. So trying to get, as close to those stories. But we do have to be careful going into like big box stores and seeing a stamp that says organic or something, and we all heard of greenwashing and these kinds of things. So I'm not saying don't ever buy that stuff. I'm just saying if you can, if you're going to spend extra money on it, try to do a little bit of your own looking into the background behind that stamp or that certification to see if you feel good about it. And then, so this picture, I guess, this is at a Fair Trade Federation conference, and the woman on the right is Vinay Verda, and she founded Maggie's Organics, which is a Michigan-based company, and they started out making those t-shirts. That's one of the early t-shirts from, I think it's from a Fish concert in the 80s, and so she just got really into organic cotton farming, because cotton is a really heavily sprayed crop. Her backstory is really long, but the cool thing is I'm sitting right there. I took that picture, and I've met her now several times. I've been selling her socks for 13 or 14 years. That's the main product that they make, mostly all made in the US. She is the one who's gone to the farmers in Texas and said, how can we help you get this crop to market so that we can make these t-shirts? And so there's just tons of fantastic stories, and the label is the connector to my customers so they can find their way back to it.
Awesome. So the next question was sitting there, and I said, so, you know, I can't help myself, but I'm a business professor. So I want to talk about how do you integrate this idea of sustainability, social and environmental issues. How do you effectuate this thing that we call the triple bottom line? You know, how is your cost structure different because of what you do? And they both looked at me and they're like, I don't know. Our accounting looks the same, man. What are you asking? So I said, no worries, we'll figure it out. So we talked for a while, and what we figured out was there are things that you are considering into the cost structure of the business. There are things like you said earlier, if you're using biocompostable packaging material, or you're using something else that might make your final product more expensive, that is a consideration you have to make. Like, what is the threshold in terms of pricing that I can put this product out to the market and the market will actually respond and buy that product. So let's talk a little bit about that. Of course, I want to talk about wages at Zen Cafe. So talk to us a little bit about this whole idea of what does it mean to consider these things into your cost structure when you're talking about a sustainable supply chain and those things?
For me, yeah, I still would like to think that our margins are as comparable to other businesses or the rest of the industry, but maybe not. So for me, I'll even kind of give you some backstory. I was actually a graduate student and then coffee fell on me. So I wasn't planning on being a coffee roaster or a business owner. I was actually going to be going PhD track for Japanese. So I'm nowhere near my field. A lot of my foundation for business kind of stems from all my personal history. I was a foreign exchange student in Japan. People took me in, some random guy into their home and let me live with them as their own son. So for me, it's always like that personal connection, right? So we're all one big family. So, you know, as far as you mentioned wages, I refuse to pay minimum wage for any of my employees. So I don't know if we want to talk about that right now, but
yeah, just tell us a little bit about what your take is and what you think your employees should make, and then I'll interject a little business.
All right, you got it. Okay. So all of my employees start out at 10 plus tips for baristas. Roasters obviously get paid more. Right now, I'm the one doing the roasting, so I'm actually free labor for Zen Cafe. Yes, I start at 10 plus tips. And that's because I care about them. I want to make sure that they can pay their bills and that they can enjoy life. And that's just starting wage.
So not just a business professor, but I happen to be the HR guy at the School of Business and Economics. So all my HR students are going to get super excited now because I'm going to bring up ONET. So I went and did a little bit of homework. And what I did was, this is a website, it's a database that's maintained by the US Department of Labor. You can go on this website, you put in just about any kind of job title. It'll give you a full job analysis as well as salary information. So I just wanted to see, where does that $10 an hour stand? Where are we in the spectrum, you know? And so what you're looking at there is the search I did for baristas. And so this comes up, the red bars are Indiana, the blue bars are the national rates. And then there's a map where you can zoom in to your own area. I did that, and it was so our area is the same as the Indiana rates, so I didn't need to go any further because they're virtually identical. So what you'll notice is that the median hourly rate for coffee preparers, servers, baristas, whatever you want to call them, is in the $8 range. It's about $8.70 an hour. And the top range is in the $10 an hour range, right? And here you have a shop that starts its people at the $10 an hour range. So there's a clear picture here in terms of someone who has said, I could do the going rate. I can start my baristas at 8 or 9, but I won't. I'm going to go, I'm going to start them at the top of the range. And so that obviously has to have implications in terms of your cost structure, right? Because that's just your labor costs if you're looking at it from an economic perspective. So I thought it was a really cool way to show a very conscious decision by a local business owner who has decided to sort of defy the market and pay an above market wage. And of course, $10 an hour is, closer at least to living wages. In some instances, it might be a living wage for our area, but certainly minimum wage is not. It's not. So that's a great thing.
And then all my employees all get paid sick and holiday pay as well. So that's just an incentive that we.
Becky, anything that you want to reflect on this?
I just think it's maybe good to point out the sort of the triple bottom line of, people, planet, and profit, and that when you're running a sustainable business, you can maybe have a bigger focus on different areas of sustainability and whatnot, but I think ultimately what Sean and I are trying to do is just infuse that through every little decision, from making sure we recycle our business waste to how we pay our employees to, what kind of light bulbs we're using in our facility. We haven't talked about that, but I'm, knowing that you're working on it at home. It comes with its challenges. And I would say, I was reflecting on this after our conversation last week, and I think in a way, like, what we're doing is a little more like what an artist does than what a business person does. We're just coming from a really different place. We're not like, hey, I think I want to be an entrepreneur and I'm gonna start a business and I'm gonna make a lot of money. It's just so really different. And then you have to have, sometimes you have to have somebody supporting you in the background, in which case I do. Because, so depending on how you define sustainability, just it isn't really sustainable. I just feel like I need to do some public honesty there. It's really not. I love doing it and I'm able to do it, but I make a lot of choices in my day-to-day life too, in terms of what are we going to spend money on or not spend money on, so I can afford to do what I do in my daily work. But I get to have that choice. So.
Great. Okay, so the last question that we talked a little bit about last week was this idea of social entrepreneurship, and that is, somehow contributing to sort of the greater environment, right? What kinds of things you might be doing to help your suppliers, your vendors, your clients, the community in which you are living. What kinds of things are you engaged in from a social entrepreneurship standpoint, so that others can also thrive along the way, right? So, go to the next slide.
So, I don't know if you recall the previous slide that you saw me washing coffee. That's the same pulping station. This is 2 years after I took that one picture with Rudy. What you don't see in this picture, because the photographer I take with me wasn't able to go on the previous trip, is those tanks are all tiled now. So it's a lot easier to clean than just cement. That also allows for better fermentation and clean up afterwards. But one thing I noticed when I was down there was this pulping station. It was crazy dangerous when I first went. And he's like, yeah, we do this all the time. I'm like, no, that's not cool. Originally, when you would pulp coffee, you would unload bags into 5-gallon buckets and walk across where that bucket is on that wall and carefully dump them in that pulping machine. But those two cement tanks are about 4 foot deep, and they would not be forgiving if you would fall in them, and I've seen people almost fall several times. So one of it was funding a new pulping station, and we also did the nursery. Same thing with the tile tanks, we did that. So yeah, it's just taking another, just looking at it from a different perspective, right? Rudy does this all day, so it's natural for him. Other farmers do the same practices, but if I see this and go, hey man, what does it take to make this safer for everyone? And then also, what does it take to make your product better? Right, but you only can do that if you have a connection with that farmer or the person that you're working with. So yeah, I was pretty proud to see that when we came back. It's much, much safer now.
So, what's this?
Wow, that is an old roaster. I don't even have that anymore. But that is a coffee roaster. What I'm doing there is just.
I love the plant life.
Yeah, so this roaster was the first commercial roaster I bought. I actually started my coffee roasting business in a whirly pot, coffee pot, like a popcorn popper, a hand grill. Yeah, with an elbow grill and a grill. And I could roast 1 pound at a time. It's not sustainable at all. Then we modified a grill, which also did the trick. And then I bought a roaster on a whim, and I was fortunate enough that I got it shipped from China, and it was there, the real roaster. So that was good. So that was my first commercial roaster right there. It looks like I'm getting into, just by the color of the beans, I'm probably getting close to first crack, so I'm going to be tracking the development time.
Cool. And what's this one?
That is the new deep rig. That is like a Cadillac of coffee roasters. I would not have been, and my hair's really long there, but. So that is a roaster company that's based in Idaho. They use infrared burners as opposed to the direct flame as the Valley and Amazon machine that you saw earlier. So it's a lot more efficient. It's controlled by PLCs, so I can actually set a temp and it will stay at that temp until I want it to charge. So it's a lot more consistent. But that wouldn't have been able to happen without investment. So that was another local investor.
I think it's, and I was looking at these pictures earlier, I was working on this slideshow, and I was thinking to myself, how oblivious are we when we walk into a store and we're like, give me a latte, and we have no clue what's going in. I mean, we don't know the effort. We have no idea about the supply chain, the beans, the roasting, and there's a lot of science and art behind these things. And, as consumers, we're like, I don't know about caffeine, man.
Right. So yeah, there is a lot behind the scenes. That was just, that roaster ended up in my roastery because of a casual conversation at Bare Hands Brewery. And it happened to be another fellow business owner, owner of Lithogen. It's a printing company in Elkhart. He's like, oh, how much do you need? Yeah, we can do that. And I'm like, wow, is this guy for real? And then a week later, he's like, just draw me up a plan and give me, several different options for interest rates and years, and we'll do that. And that's how that worked. So speak to people next to you, it's really cool.
Becky, you got anything in your mind you want to add to as we close this thing up?
No, I think just a lot of that sharing was to talking to people, being open with your story, helping other similar businesses get going, or with our local made products. Somebody comes in and then I ask how their product is made and what their materials are, and helping them think about creating a sustainable product, and then when I can, giving them a place to market it. So.
Awesome. Okay, so now the rest of your questions. That's it. I remember you raised your hand.
Oh, Rich did.
Becky kind of addressed it. I was gonna ask about greenwashing.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else? Yes.
I just have like a general question. I know in my life, I never would have thought of sustainability within business before I did sustainable things at home. what advice for at home do you have for people, say, that are broke and busy to be sustainable? Because I know a lot of sustainability is the cost. What advice do you have, simple advice, like maybe building a composter or throwing your ads away? I love that.
Yeah, I'd say, recycle those ads. Yeah, when you're busy and broke, it's really hard. And you have to give yourself a break sometimes too. So it's really good to think about it and do what you can, but not get mired in some guilt or, just, and pat yourself on the back for every little thing. It takes a long time to put new systems into place, especially when you're working or raising kids, going to school. But every little bit makes a difference, and then you learn how to do something a little differently. So just every time you're, thinking about needing something new, think about whether you can fix something old or find a good source for it. Things like weatherproofing your house, just trying to reduce your energy consumption, setting your thermostat down a couple degrees. Replacing light bulbs as they go out with a more sustainable bulb, wearing your jeans an extra time, just reducing your usage of energy and materials, maybe. But we can almost throw this out to the crowd. Some people might have some really good things that they've done.
Find candidates to vote for who will push that agenda. They do have power.
So, electing candidates. So yeah, even just when you think about voting or making sure you're voting, that could have almost a bigger impact than changing those light bulbs. Also, I think if you work at larger institutions, that sometimes you have a little leverage there too to ask the questions like, I'll just point out that we don't have plastic water bottles sitting on this table. I don't know if any of y'all noticed that, but it's become a staple in American society to provide speakers and all kinds of other people with disposable plastic bottles, but Krista does not do that. And I'm grateful that I'm a little thirsty right now because I forgot my own water bottle, but I usually do bring it. I have one. Well, they better. I hear crinkling plastic right here.
I brought you all a reusable water bottle.
That was a good segue. So have it, take water.
So you're gonna keep being thirsty.
Yeah.
It just looks.
There are water fountains out in the house, Paul, I'll find them here.
Okay, other questions? Yes.
So, one of my other classes, my public relations classes, we're working with 10,000 Villages. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They do a lot of nonprofit, fair trade, and all their products that they get in are made from recycled materials from other countries. I was just wondering if the clothes and everything that you sell in your store is made of recycled materials, and if you work with them too.
Great question. So when I came back from that trip to Ecuador with those sisal bags, I went to 10,000 Villages.
Really? Okay.
I had already been shopping there for my fair trade organic coffee and occasional gifts. They sell a lot of gift items and decor. And so I was a customer of theirs, and I talked to the then manager, and long story short, it didn't work out that they wouldn't be able to pick up this as a new product, because they're a North American organization that stores all over North America, and so their sourcing is more the individual stores don't get to pick. And I wouldn't say that 100% of their things are recycled, but they've been working on that over the last 20 years. They are really the parent group for fair trade in the current era, I would say. They were going back through a couple name changes. They started after World War II. We're going into Eastern Europe, which was destroyed from World War II, and buying handicrafts from women and selling them in the churches. And it's a great organization. I would say that I came from the recycled and organic kind of early, before they even did. That was just I had been involved in environmental education, and so that's exactly what I'm doing. The people and the planet for every product.
Do you work with them? year?
So I don't want to compete with, I wanted to offer something different.
Okay.
So we do, actually, at one point, I did a little consignment where I brought some of their products, because my store's downtown, and I thought, well, people will see the name and then maybe get out to their store, which is out in Centennial Place, up near UP Mall. They have a store in Goshen as well. So yeah, we are very friendly, like we've done some fair trade day events together over the years, and we send customers back and forth, to each other, and, yeah, but I try to sell things that are a little different than what they offer, just to offer something different to the community.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Is Rudy one of your only suppliers, or are you supplied by?
Rudy, and then a women-owned co-op, women-owned farm in Nicaragua are the two that I'm working consistently with. I'm working on Minami farms in Brazil as well. There is a girl that is taking over her parents' farm in Brazil, and they were primarily selling commodity as well. But she came up with this crazy idea, hey, Dad, let's sell specialty coffee. And I'm like, why? We've got the market. She's like, because it's really good coffee. So she submitted samples to what they call a couple of excellence award. They placed in like the top 5 best coffees in Brazil. So for me, it's all about building that relationship first. So I've been talking to Yuki 3 years now. So hopefully this year we'll be importing her farm, some of her lots. That's also another crazy story because she happens to be a Japanese nationality, but born and raised in Brazil, and obviously when they said and a background of Japanese, I was like, what? And that was also just sitting at a table. That was in Seattle, where I met her, sitting at a community table. She heard me talking about coffee.
Yeah, I had a question about labor costs, and I guess more of the triple bottom line return on the investment that you're making. Because when I go into the cafe, a couple different things I notice about the people that work there is, one, they're happy. I don't know about the most baristas look pretty grouchy, but I don't know. They think they like working there, they know the product really well, and that makes a huge difference. And they want to make that connection. And the same at Just Goods, you go in and you ask what they know about things, and I see the same people at the counter time and time again. So I feel like there's more, you're getting more out of that investment than just, oh, well, my labor costs are high, and I'll just eat it. But you're getting that return. You're not going to rehire and retrain people, and you've got customer loyalty because you've got employee loyalty. I was wondering, at least that's what I'm seeing. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that, if I'm seeing that correctly.
I think you are. So if you haven't figured it yet, I'm all like relationship based. I like to remember wherever I met somebody, because that's very important to me. It's that social connect that those people are not getting enough of these days. But that's another story. For me, I never really look at labor costs. So for your perspective, you're probably like, oh my God, why would you do that?
I'm gonna leave now.
But for me, I'm just like, all right, my first thing is Tyler or is Brenna happy where they're at? That's number one. Yeah, I don't really look at labor. I want to make sure that they're paid well. I want to make sure that they're happy. If there is any problem or concern or anything that they want to talk about, we're there. And that's all about having an open dialogue too. That trust.
Before I answer any other questions, but I did want to respond to your question about what can you do if you broke and whatnot. I'm no longer a struggling college student. Now I'm just a struggling college professor. So I'll tell you a story. I take a group of students to Greece every summer for a study abroad program, and contrary to popular belief, Greeks eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of legumes, a lot of stews, a lot of vegetarian dishes. And I find the American students I will take will sit down and they'll serve them like, a pot of, stewed peas with onions and potatoes, and they're like,
We're having peas for dinner? Where's the meat? Aren't peas like a side dish?
So I'm saying this to say, if you have a budget and it's a fixed budget, right? It's restricted, it's limited, whatever it is. I want to throw a philosophy out there, and a thought for you to consider, and that is, and sometimes I'm in that predicament as well. I go into the grocery store and I know how much money I want to spend, and that's it. I'm not going to get distracted, If I can't, if I want chicken, and I buy all the rest of the stuff, and I've done the math in my head, and all I can afford to get in that moment is that chicken that's 99 cents a pound, that is, the chicken that has broken legs and wings, and it's caged, and it's eating its own poop, and it's shot with antibiotics and all that stuff. I would rather eat peas than eat that chicken. So so what I'm saying is consider going the healthy, the organic, the local route, and buying what your budget allows you, and maybe it won't be meat every day or every other day. Maybe it'll be a vegetable stew, it'll be something else. But think about, in my mind, my philosophy is, if I can't at least buy sort of the cage-free, antibiotic-free meat, something that it's, maybe not that chicken that's going to cost me like $30 for a chicken, but maybe the one that's going to cost me $6 or $7 or $8 or $10, not the one that's going to cost me $3, right? If I can't get closer to the target, I'll make lentils and rice, and I'm just as happy with a little bread. So, but I think, I see it in my students' experience is that one, we don't seem to really be that sort of creative or knowledgeable about having diversity even in the way that we nourish ourselves. So we're limited in what we want or what we think we can cook, and that so often it's not our budget that limits us, it's our approach to nutrition that limits us. You may have a lot more options with that limited budget and just not thinking about it. I mean, how many of you really can cook a really, really good bean stew or lentil soup or something like that and just really enjoy it and not say,
We're having peas?
or have your kids say it. Because of course we're passing it on to our kids too, right? Which is the biggest sin, if you ask me. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I want to applaud your statement. I'm an urban farmer grower of Kankakee Wetlands Organic Gardens, 501c3 on the west side of South Bend. Most of our gardens are clustered very near La Casa de Amistad's headquarters, and we have a partnership with them. But we have a kind of a, well, Becky knows, Becky's been supportive of us. She buys squash and
We're on my butternut squash.
Yes. So, but we started, we're our 10th year, and we ended up buying some vacant properties. So I would encourage you all to take step by step, like I did, and start in your neighborhood a garden. Do any of you have a vacant property near where you live, in your neighborhood? How many of you do? Oh, you and I need to talk. So anyway, so we're all volunteer organization, and we have a core group of members, and they get a good portion of 1/3 of our biggest crops is set aside to be divided among our core member group of gardeners. And to be a member, a core member, is to work at least once every 2 weeks through the growing season. So, and you don't need to go to the gym because our source of energy is not gasoline or diesel, it's through photosynthesis, creating the food that you eat. And so it's human power, thanks to the sun and plants. So you get all your exercise in our garden. And tonight for supper I had potatoes and cabbage and onion and what else? And a carrot. And 3 of those vegetables came from our gardens. So we grow a lot of easy to store winter stuff. So if you want to save some money and still get your exercise and get high quality produce, and we do regenerative organic growing. So think about starting something like this in your neighborhood. And if you want to see what we look like, come and visit us. You're quite welcome. Okay?
What's your name again?
Yep.
Excuse me, what do you call it today?
Kankakee Wetlands Organic Gardens. We need to
Judith,
update.
are you guys gonna be at the is it called Veg Fest that's coming up on March 25th at that other school, kind of on the other side of town?
Is that a bunch of college students playing video games?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah,
I know anything about that.
yeah, it just popped up on my radar a few weeks ago. Did I get the right date? Sunday, March 25th at, I think, the new behemoth on the football stadium, in one of those buildings over there. And so it'll be a lot, if you're looking to, like, food is a great way to reduce your footprint and to be more sustainable. And even if you don't want to be vegetarian, you can bring some more of that into your diet. And this might be a really nice, fun way to start gathering some ideas and recipes.
So I think we're out of time, but I know that, Zach, you want to talk about taking this little survey. I'm pretty sure we're gonna hang out a little bit afterwards if you want to chat with us and talk to us, and we'll, address your questions. But I don't want to necessarily hold the whole group. You guys are busy, and I think it's 8:30 by now, right?
So if you have a smartphone, if you wouldn't mind traveling to this tiny URL or taking a picture of the QR code, give us some of your feedback, we really appreciate it. And
It will only take a few seconds
just a few seconds,
of
yes.
your time.
And then if you don't have one, there's a hard copy survey outside that you can fill out as well. Let's give our panel and moderator a applause.
We're adjourned.
Enjoy your evening, folks.
Yeah, I didn't